Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to our Java tutorial series. This is episode 2, and as you can see we have our program from lesson 1. And we're going to be deleting most of this. So, well, actually only one line, but that is most of a 2-line program. Anyway, we're going to take out that line and we're going to be creating something a little bit more interesting this time. And also, I'm going to go over possibly the most important thing in programming, which is variables. And that's basically the fundamental concept in all programming languages. And it's very similar throughout most programming languages. So anyway, let's start off with the integer. Now, if you've done any math, this should sound pretty simple, and it really is. It's essentially what you would think it is. It's an integer. And so that means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get the idea. So it goes up forever. Well, actually, not quite. It goes up very high. Now, on a computer, because of the way data is stored, you only have a limited number of space inside your RAM when you use an integer to create a variable. So we could say int a, and this number could go up to, it could be pretty big. I think it can be, I don't know, up to, you can go up into the pretty high millions with an integer. But say you need something a little bit better, you can use something called a long. Now, a long is quite similar to an integer. It just gives you more freedom to work with. So we're going to be mainly using integers unless you're making some program that calculates our deficit or something. I don't know. But yeah, so stick with integers if you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, anything like that. So what can we do with this? Well, let's start off by, first of all, writing a program using this so that you can see exactly how it works. So let's start off by import java.util.scanner. Okay, so what is this? The import statement essentially lets you import other things that have already been written for your own use. So the scanner is a class that allows users to input text inside here. And I'll show you how to use this. So essentially, in order to get text, we're going to create a variable int a. So what this does is it creates a variable in our memory, and it puts it at some random place. And now we can set a to anything we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, first of all, because this is a scanner, we need to create a scanner. So we're going to say scanner in equals new scanner system.in. Okay, so what did this do? This creates a new scanner called in. Now, what is a scanner? Well, as I said before, it's essentially the class that allows us to get input from the user. Now, we created it and we named it in. So now whenever we want to use it, instead of typing out like new scanner system.in or new scanner system.in and then doing something, we can just use in. And actually, you kind of have to do this just because that's how you initialize classes. And this will make more sense once we use classes a bit more. But for now, just remember that this is how you make a scanner, and then you put whatever name you want, then new scanner system.in. So let's say we want to use this. Well, what we can do is we can say a equals in.nextInt. Okay, so what did this do? Well, it takes our variable a and it sets it equal to in, which was our scanner, and then dot next int. So let's run this and let me show you what it does. So let's say we put in 5. Now the variable a has been set to 5, and we can't really see it, but trust me, it has. So essentially what this is doing is it's saying a is equal to, and then it takes our scanner, which goes and looks for input from the user, and the type of input is going to be an integer. Now we can also do in.next double or in.next long, since I'm not sure if that exists actually. Maybe it does. Okay, but so for example, that would give us a different data type. So this essentially goes out and looks for an integer. Now we haven't really gone over other data types. So let's do another one. So we're gonna use double b. Okay, so now we have two variables, int a and double b. So double b is essentially it's another number, except a double can use decimals. So in this, we're still looking for an integer. Let's say I put in 5.5. Gives us an error. So what happened? Well, it says a bunch of stuff that doesn't really make that much sense. But essentially what it's saying is that you have asked for an integer, and the program asked for an integer and you gave it a double. And it doesn't really like that. Actually, it has no idea how to handle that, so it crashes. So this is one of the dangers of programming. You have to always make sure you're using the right data type. So let's say we put in B instead, and now we run 5.5. 5.5. And for some, okay. So we put in B, which is the double, but it's still getting an integer, and we're still giving it a double. So let's change this to next double, and run this, and we put in 5.5, and look, it works. So as you can see, a double is essentially the same as an integer, except it can use decimals. And if you don't need decimals, it's generally better to use an integer because it's going to be more efficient. But doubles are used for decimals, and there's also something called a float, which is very similar to a double. It's, I believe, a little bit more accurate, but it's really not relevant for most programs. So we'll just use doubles. So anyway, so right now we have a variable b, which is getting the double that we put in. Now here's a question. Say we were to give we couldn't give a double because that doesn't work. But what if we try to give double b an integer? It's asking for double, but what if we give it an integer? Well, let's try that. Let's put in 5, and it works. So why does that work? Well, essentially, when you give a double an integer, you're going from a state of less precision to a state of more precision, which is fine. The only problem is if you try to lose precision by going from something that's more precise, such as a double, to something less precise, such as an integer. And this, again, is the same in all programming languages, so it's pretty important. So you can never be losing accuracy, if that makes sense. So we can go from an int to a double, not from a double to an int. So anyway, I've told you that this is storing the data that we put in as a variable, but can I prove it? Well, yes. Well, in the last tutorial, what we did was we did something called system.out.print, and we did hello. Now, the reason I put these quotation marks here is because that's how you signify something called a string, which is another data type, and it's essentially just letters and numbers put together to make words and stuff. That's known as a string. But let's say we wanted to output our b. So let's take this out and let's put in b here, and let's see what happens. It didn't do anything. That is somewhat interesting. System.out.print b. Okay. Let's try putting in b like this. Oh, right. Okay, I know what we forgot. Okay. So anyway, sorry about that. So when we run this, it's waiting for the input. So we're gonna put in b, which let's say 5, and it prints out b. Why did it do that? Okay, so the reason why it did that is because we put b inside quotation marks, and this marks it as a string. So this is not using b the double, this is using b the string. So we take out the quotation marks, and suddenly you see it's not blue, because the blue is going to signify that it's a string. It's not blue. And now if we run this and we put in 5, and it outputs 5. Well, it doesn't output 5 exactly, it outputs 5.0. The reason why it outputs 5.0 instead of 5 is because a double is always going to output 0.0 to signify that it's not an integer. And that's going to happen no matter what when you're using double in Java. So that's pretty cool. Now let's say we want to do something a little more interesting, because this is not very good. Let's say, because remember when I ran this before, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I thought it wasn't working. So let's make it so that when the user runs it, it gives you a little prompt first. So could we do that? Well, yeah. Let's create another system.out.print, and let's say please enter number, and let's put a space there. Okay. So why did I put a space here? Well, because when we enter the number, you'll see it'll give it a nice space and it'll look nicer. But so what's this going to do? It'll output this, and then it'll ask for the next double. So essentially we'll be able to type that in, and then it will print it. So let's run this again, and please enter number. So let's enter 5.3, and it outputs 5.3. So that's kind of cool. Let's say we want to make this even better, and we want to make it so that it says your number was 5.3. Well, we can do it basically the same way. Just add another system.out.print your number was. Always put a semicolon, and let's run this again. Please enter number 5 2. I don't know, I'm just putting in numbers. Your number was 52.6. So that's a basic example of how Java can handle data, and I just gave you a look at two types of variables and also how to input data from the user. So that's kind of cool. In the next tutorial, we'll go over how to do math using these different variables and how to return results, and we'll make something simple but really cool. So subscribe if you want to see that. Please like the video and leave a comment if you have a question. I reply to all my comments, and well, I reply to as many as I can. I read them all. So thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. As I just said, please subscribe if you want to see the next one and you want to learn how to add and make some sort of simple calculator or something. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.